welcome to Fright Night.
For real. What is up, man?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Nothing, dude. How are you?
I am doing great, bud. I am having an awesome day. So, first day of spring and beautiful weather here. So,
hell yeah! It's been a little while, man, since we've chatted. You've kind of been, you were going hot and heavy for a while. I know you got that new gig, and then we kind of been chatting on and off. So, I appreciate you coming out and asking me to be on this new series of yours because I love talking memories.
Same here,
Yeah.
dude. And I am so excited to get back into streaming again. I did my Witchboard one last week with Brian Goes Blue and Coco 2, which was so much fun. And we were talking about a certain movie, Fright Night, and to do a stream about it. And we both have that same love for the movie. And I'm just so happy to have you a part of this. So thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you. And again, to be honest, like Fright Night couldn't have been a more perfect movie for this for me, which we'll kind of talk about when we start rolling with it. But yeah, man, like this is like the perfect movie for this type of show for me. So I appreciate that you thinking of me for it for sure.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy. I am. It's an honor. Just say that it's an honor. So, and
What are you gonna say?
I would say no, it's just an honor. And I would say you've been on YouTube. Has it been a year already? It's been over a year. It's been over a year. Yeah.
It's been over a year. It's like a year and like I'm gonna say a year and maybe 5 months.
So awesome, man. And where are you at subscriber wise? I think you're close to 1,000, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like at I think 910. I think I'm at. So it's creeping. It's creeping there. It's been the first, I'm going to say 6 months was a snail's pace, but then, as I started getting a groove a little bit and stuff, it started to kind of climb pretty quick. So, but man, I'm just having fun, like meeting new people in the community. And like I told you on our stream that we did before, man, I've been watching you since you were probably in high school. And I was just a collector, looking at other YouTubers being like, hey, let's see if they like what I like, and let's see if they give me an idea of what to buy. So, man, like I told you before, I've been watching you forever. So I'm glad to be on here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I went through many hairstyles and no facial hair and all that throughout the years.
Hell yeah, man. It's all good.
Oh, man. So let's see some of these comments. And by the way, hello, everybody. Hello. And guys, first of all, if you don't know who Garrett is, Born to Be Rad, please go subscribe to him, channel down below, follow him on Instagram. Before we get to the comments real quick, Garrett, if no one knows about your channel, talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So again, it's pretty similar to most movie-related channels. I talk mostly horror, but more in the vein of anything really 80s and 90s I talk about. I love doing live streams with other people in the community and talk about movies that we grew up with and we love. So if you like physical media, if you like collectibles, if you like horror or anything 80s and 90s, definitely pop down to my channel and check it out. I've usually got 1 to 2 videos really coming through every week. So definitely go check it out and let me know what you guys think.
Awesome, dude. And you guys are going to love his channel, so please go subscribe. Go subscribe to this guy. I mean, look at that background right there. I love it. So
this is years and years of hard work.
Love it, dude. Love it. So let's get through some of these comments real quick. My buddy Ken, Sledgehammer Horror here. What's going on, Ken? Love this guy. How are you, Ken?
What's up, Ken?
Podcast Cinephile. Hello, gentlemen. How are you wonderful people doing? We're doing great. We're ready to talk some Fright Night. So I am pumped for this. Like, I love this movie. I know you do too. So this is going to be exciting. My buddy Apollo, how are you? Rocky fan here. Rocky 4 being my favorite. So
agree.
Yeah.
Same here.
The best. Welcome to Fright Night for real. What's up, Apollo? And then Sean, how are you? Thank you for stopping in, guys. So
what's up, man?
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about the 1985 Tom Holland classic, in my opinion, Fright Night. And I adore this movie. I love this movie. We have memories. We're going to talk about it. But let's talk about the story real quick. If you guys don't know what it's about, which if you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. But Fright Night is about a teenage boy, Charlie Brewster. Movie opens up with him and his girlfriend Amy, and Charlie just happens to look out his window and he sees two guys bringing in a coffin next door. And you find out that is Jerry Dandridge and Billy Coleman. I believe Billy Coleman, right?
Billy Cole. Billy Cole. Coleman. Cole. Yeah, Billy Cole.
Billy Cole.
Yep.
And Charlie just happens to find out later that Jerry Dandridge is not only his neighbor, but is a vampire. And no one believes him. His girlfriend Amy doesn't believe him. His mom doesn't believe him. His friend Ed doesn't believe him. And a character by the name of Peter Vincent doesn't believe him. But once he starts kind of meddling into Jerry's life, Jerry comes after him. And he says, I'm going to give you a choice. Forget me, Charlie. Forget what you saw, pretty much. Move on, or I'm going to kill you. And Charlie doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to move on. And so Jerry goes after him, and he goes after his friends, Peter Vincent, at some point when Peter realizes that Jerry is a vampire. And that's pretty much like kind of a small plot of it. I'm bad at describing plots, but you have, just an awesome horror movie here directed by Tom Holland. You got an awesome cast who I had the privilege of meeting a lot of them. And, what I love about this, and we'll talk more about it, is, you got a love story here. You got two love stories. You got Amy and Charlie, the young couple. And then you have Amy and Jerry Dandridge. So anyway, that is kind of the small plot of it. Is there anything I'm missing, Garrett, that you could think of?
No, I actually thought that was impressive, that whole synopsis, without giving too much away, but giving a nice, plot of what this movie is about. And I think he did a hell of a job doing it. And I think it's just a great cast. I would say all-star cast. I think it's an all-star cast, but a lot of the people that were really main leads didn't go on and do as much as you would have thought they would have, seeing them back in the day. Like, Charlie Brewster's character to me seemed like that was going to be somebody that you would have seen in many, many movies, in the 80s. And, he had his fair share of a few, and, but, not as many as you thought, because I thought he did a real good job as the lead here.
Yes. Oh, I agree. I watched it earlier just to kind of refresh going into this, and I love William Ragsdale as Charlie Brewster. I mean, I love him in this movie. I love him in Fright Night Part 2. One of my favorite characters in a movie, and you really feel for him when the people around him don't believe him. And, he's trying to tell everybody that this guy is a vampire. He's killing people. He's going to come after me. And, I love Charlie Brewster. Great character. William Ragsdale, I love him too. Mannequin 2 on the Moon. Yeah. Fright Night Part 2. So many great cult movies and TV shows. So, and such a nice guy too. Super nice guy.
Very, very nice guy. And I was waiting for you to bring up Mannequin 2. I knew it was coming. But yeah, I agree. Like, it's a great one too. And like I said, I'm curious to see what happened though, like not what happened like in a bad way, but again, you figure he's the lead in a lot of these movies. Like, he's not even a side character. Like, he's like the main character. And just to kind of see, like, where did it end and why, like, why didn't we see him in more stuff? Because again, I think he did really, really good here. And even the supporting cast, I mean, Amy from, she had a big role in Married with Children, and, Stephen Jeffries did his own little thing with movies and stuff. But like, again, like, I even feel that like Evil Ed was such a strong character that I would have thought I would have seen a lot more of Stephen Jeffries at that time, which another great movie if you guys hasn't seen. What's the one he was the lead in with something Fraternity Vacation, I think it's called. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but that's something I want to see, because when I watched the Fright Night documentary, that was something that was brought up. So
okay, yeah. And Amanda Bierce is in that as well with him. Yeah. And it's a cool movie. It's like a teen comedy from the 80s that not many people talk about, but Shout Factory did a Blu-ray, and you can definitely get your hands on it, I think. So that's one I would probably scope out for sure.
That's going to be something I'm going to put on my list to purchase. Like you, I love 80s movies, and I like to watch those little underrated gems. So,
right.
But yeah, you talk about Evil Ed. We'll talk about that character real quick. One of my favorite characters, a standout performance in this movie, has a development throughout the movie. And, this is a character you really feel for because he's pretty much the outcast, person that no one, um, Charlie cares for him, but he's not loved by a lot of people. He's bullied and teased, and at one point in the movie, and this is kind of a minor spoiler, but we have to talk about it. He's turned into a vampire, and Jerry turns him, and he says, you don't have to be afraid anymore, and no one's gonna tease you, and I love this character, Evil Ed. Stephen Jeffries, such a great performance, and again, such a big development throughout this whole movie. So, really good standout moments.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it was, and to me, it's a very iconic character, and it always will be. Going back to when I first even saw that image of him, which we can get into if you want to start talking about our first memories of this movie, and I'll get into it a little bit more. But I feel like Evil Ed is definitely, I don't know if I would say underrated, because I think he's pretty praised as far as a character. But I think in the documentary, didn't they say that he wanted to be Bill? He wanted to be William Ragsdale's character. Did he want to be the lead? And then they like, I feel like you could not have a better Evil Ed. So I think they made definitely the right choice on that.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah, he's a beloved character in this. But yeah, I remember in the documentary he wanted to play the lead, and I'm glad he was cast as Evil Ed because talk about memories. We'll talk about some favorite moments with him. I definitely love the first time he turned, you realize he's a vampire when he goes to Peter Vincent's apartment. That's a great moment in it. He's got great chemistry with Amy and Charlie when they're together. And then, of course, my favorite moment with him is when he is at Charlie's house and runs into Peter Vincent again. And, you got that classic line, his dinner's in the oven.
Yeah.
I love that moment. That is a great moment, a great line, and I have to say he has some of the best lines in this movie. A lot of quotable stuff.
Definitely. Now, when was the when do you recall like your first memories of seeing this movie or anything about it? Do you remember that at all?
I remember. Okay, so I go back to very vivid memories of seeing this on TV and being terrified of it. I think I was really young. I can't remember how young I was, but I just remember being a kid and, just seeing it on TV and being terrified of it. And then the biggest memory I have before I really went on to watch the film is seeing the VHS and the poster in the video store. And, I didn't want to pick up the case because I thought the artwork scared me. And I was afraid to look at the back of it. But I was fascinated too. I think all of us were when it came to those VHS artworks, going through those movie aisles. So I was really fascinated with it. And then I saw this movie for the first time when I had to have been 10 years old. I think I saw the movie for the first time at 10 on VHS. My mom had it, and again, it terrified me, but I kept watching, and I have terrifying memories with it, but I have great memories with it. And just throughout the years from VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, I love this film. So my first memories, though, again, going back to that question, just vivid memories with it. So.
That's pretty cool that your mom had this VHS. Like, my parents weren't horror fans. My uncle was, my parents weren't. So like, we never had, the only videos that we had at our house were the ones they bought for us as kids. Like, we never had, but again, it's also a little bit different time, I think, because I can remember when we bought our first VCR, like I was alive, like I was a little kid. And so a lot of the video cassettes that we bought were ones that my parents had bought for my brother and I. And if they were going to watch any kind of video cassette, it would have just been a rental, and then they would have just brought it back. But, I do know a lot of other people that, like, even people my age, that parents had their own VHS library, which I always was kind of envious of because, I never got that. So to me, to see these movies, usually it would have been either through my uncle or it would have been, like you said, on TV, which I can definitely get into with kind of my memories of it as well. It's very similar to yours as far as that.
Awesome. Well, talk away, buddy, and then we'll talk about more characters. But yeah, what's your first TV memories with this?
Well, so Fright Night to me, and the reason I'm so happy that you asked me to be on this is because this is really one of, in my opinion, the movies that really got me into horror. Like it was really that. I'm going to say it's probably this movie. I always dabbled in, gateway stuff. So for instance, like I was a big fan of like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Big fan of that. Even as a kid, like, I was into He-Man, but I always loved Skeletor. Like I always kind of had that. I always kind of liked those kind of characters. Like, if there was a monster action figure, I wanted it. Like I was playing with Universal Monster things. Like, these are all things that I remember going to a library as a kid in like the school library. And I'd always rent out these books. They were orange. I forget what they were called. But they had like all monsters, like Universal Monsters on them and King Kong. And I just remember taking those out in like school library all the time. So I always kind of had a little bit of like a fascination with horror. And especially because my uncle was so big into it, he was kind of teasing with it for years. But I posted this on my Instagram the other day when I knew we were doing this show. And I showed a couple cards. I don't know if you saw that post.
I did. I love it.
So that is really what got me to it introduced me to this movie. So for instance, my uncle, for whatever reason, decided he was going to give me the box set of these things called Frightflicks, which were these cards that were basically horror movie stills, but they had like funny slogans on them. I wasn't sure if they were trying to do some kind of like garbage pail kid thing, whatever. So, the slogans don't make sense with the pictures, but as a 6-year-old kid or whatever, like you didn't know any different. So again, I'm going to show a couple right now that really, really freaked me out as a kid. And the first one was this one here.
Oh, yeah.
So that image of me at like 6 years old, seeing that for the first time, it was like, I didn't know what I was looking at here. And in the quote on it says, "I got to stop hammering nails into my head." So to me as a kid, I didn't know that was like a joke. Like a part of me thought that's like, I'm like, oh man, he had nails in his head. Like I thought that was like the movie, right?
Yeah.
And the next one was this one that freaked me out.
Oh, yes.
And it's Amy. And on the slogan, it says, "Man, that soup is hot." So as a kid, I'm thinking to myself, what is this movie where she's drinking this hot soup and her mouth burns off? Like, I didn't know. And then you had this third one with Jerry Dandridge vamped out, and it says, "What do you mean I just had a manicure?" So these cards meant so much to me because that really opened my eyes to a lot of these horror movies. But at the time, I didn't realize what they were. And when I flipped these over, they all said Fright Night. So a part of me thought maybe like that was the name of the card. Like I didn't even know that was a movie. I just know that it was super scary. And I can remember probably in the early to mid 90s, I'm going to say probably early 90s, on Saturday morning, it was cartoons, WWF wrestling around like 11, 12 o'clock. And then sometimes throughout the year, it must have been around October, they would play like horror movies on TV on like a Saturday afternoon. And that's where I started to watch a lot of horror movies around that time. And I remember it said coming up next, Fright Night and Fright Night 2 or whatever. Oh. And I was like, oh, Fright Night. Like, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that sounds like those cards that I had or whatever. And that's when I saw it was for the first time on TV. So I'm not sure if it was heavily edited or not, but I can just remember now putting the cards and the faces to a movie. And I was so freaked out by these cards that by the time the movie came, it was already like, I was already petrified of this thing. But I was like, it was like a Saturday afternoon. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch it. I watched part 1 and 2 and just fell in love with the whole thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with living in the suburbs and like in a neighborhood and with neighbors. And I've talked about this before. I just did a stream on like the burbs and very similar that I always have been drawn to movies or shorts of being in a neighborhood and wondering like what's going on with the neighbors and if they're killing somebody or the vampires or whatever. Like for whatever reason, that always just kind of drew me in. And that was really my start to this movie. And I loved it so much that I remember buying the VHS tape. And then I can remember when I took it for you right here. So I bought this
I remember that.
as a kid, just because I loved it so much with that cool spine and stuff. And then I remember as an when I first got my first DVD player, I bought it with my own money. Bought a DVD player, and I only had enough money for one DVD, and that was this one right here, which I'll never get rid of because this was the first DVD I had ever bought in my life, and it was Fright Night. So I don't know when this came out. 98.
What?
So that must have been around the time that I probably got my DVD player, I would think, because it was on the shelf at the store that I bought the DVD player at, which could have been like Circuit City or Best Buy or something like that. But yeah, so that was the first DVD I ever bought as well. So yeah, this movie to me is just one of those gateways into horror, and to me, with the comedy element to it and it taking place in like kind of like the neighborhood suburb setting. I've said this before, like Lost Boys, I think, is my all-time favorite movie, but you know, Fright Night is really neck and neck with that in the sense that I think Fright Night is a near perfect horror movie in what I'm looking for, I think, in most horror movies. Where I think Lost Boys to me is just more of like, it's a funner movie for me because it's kind of like, it's got the whole 80s vibe to it. But yeah, they're very close to me in just different ways. But I would say Fright Night as a whole is pretty damn near perfect, I think.
Hey, I agree with you. I think it's perfect. This is my, you talk about this movie kind of being the one of the films that made you fall in love with this genre, and growing up with like Are You Afraid of the Dark? I remember Return to Oz and all that stuff, and I was hooked. Like that's what I loved. That's what I grew up with. Labyrinth. They don't make kids movies like they used to.
No, not at all.
And then, Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. That is my favorite movie of all time. My favorite horror movie. Fright Night is my second favorite horror movie, and it's in my top 3 favorite movies next to Halloween and Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a weird combo, but
hey, man, we've all got them, It's great because, like you said, it just, as much as it is a weird combo, in your own brain, it makes sense, right? Like in my brain, it would make sense. I'd be like, because it was all around that time, and there's probably some similarities to it, and it's teenagers from the 80s, and but yeah, I mean, as far as horror movies, it's right up there for me. As far as movies of all time, Fright Night, I think probably gets in the top 5. I'm thinking as a whole, for me. But yeah, horror movies, it's right at the top, for sure. So, yeah, man, I just think, like you said, just as far as the characters, the tone, and at the same time, the horror elements of it are top notch. Like, I mean, just these cards that I showed you here. I mean, the effects are insane in this. Like, these are like some of the most iconic looking, I'm gonna say vampires ever, in my opinion. Like that Amy face, like what else has really pushed that kind of boundaries? Like Lost Boys and stuff look cool, but they only vamp out for like a couple seconds, right? Where I mean, this is like some real deal stuff. And I think Stephen Jeffries is the one Steve Johnson is the one who did the effects, or at least did a lot of them for this. Yeah. And he killed it with all of them that had to turn to vampires.
We'll talk about some of those practical effects, because it's, in my opinion, probably the best practical effects I've seen in a movie. I don't know, like it's a toss-up. It's just that is a standout with this movie, is the practical effects. But you talk about that Amy scene, that terrified me the first time I saw it, when she's vampire Amy, and she's telling Charlie, you promise you wouldn't let him get me, you promise, and her hands are covering her face, and then all of a sudden, like, she's revealed in that big mouth, and just as a kid freaked me out so much. And rewatching it today, it's one of the best scenes. But if I remember correct, in the documentary, Steve Johnson talked about how he did not, that was not something that he liked at first. That was, I think somebody else created that makeup for Amy, and that wasn't something that he wanted to plan on doing. Like, don't quote me on it, but I think in the documentary, he that was not his original plan. But it's just so iconic now, and her face is on the artwork. I mean, that's an iconic moment. So I love that. But what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say it sure is. It's iconic. And again, I think they really took chances too, because it wasn't your average vamp out, right? Like everybody kind of has their own way. Like they really went all out, and it wasn't just like gave people a couple fangs and called it a day. Like these people turned to monsters. And what else too is that I find Chris Sarandon to me. I know somebody in the chat asked Chris Sarandon or Jerry Dandridge or David from Lost Boys. That's tough because I'm going to say cool vampire David all day. If I wanted to be one, I would be David all day. But to me, Jerry Dandridge just worked to the level where I'm like, I could see this guy as like Dracula, right? Like he had like that I could see like the ladies and stuff like wanting him. And I could just, it just made more sense to me. Like he just looked the part, I think, for the head vampire. Like he just really had that swagger, and like he really just had that look that I think it just worked on all levels.
No, I agree. I completely agree. The look and everything about him. The way the character was written, the way Chris Sarandon portrayed him on screen. In my opinion, my favorite vampire of all time. I love the character. I love Chris Sarandon. I love Jerry Dandridge. And I was talking to a friend earlier. Shout out to Jamie, because she's a huge fan of Fright Night. She talked about something, and I thought it was a pretty good point. You see a lot of vampire films, and some of the looks, you could tell that they come from like either the 80s, 90s, 70s, whatever time period. But with Jerry Dandridge, and see if this makes sense. His look, like I think this could be like a everyday look. Like, obviously it comes from the 80s, but like you could watch this movie now, and if you see his look, I mean, it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
I think it's timeless. It transitions.
That's the word. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Right there, so
no, it really does. I mean, you're right. It wasn't like he dressed as Dracula. It wasn't like he, looked like David, right? Like, there was certain things where there's a lot of carryover. But he had that. It was still cool. At the same time, like I always loved like, and I never knew what it was. He had the red scarf with like that long jacket. Like, what was that jacket? Was it leather or was it cloth? Like I always wanted to know like what that material was on that jacket. It was like a big, like kind of like how the Lost Boys wore like those big trench coats or whatever. He had one too, but it was kind of like a bluish or like a gray trench coat with the red scarf. I always thought that was a cool look.
I always thought it was a cool look too, especially like the alley scene with Evil Ed, and then the moment where he's going after Charlie and Amy before they go into the nightclub. So yeah, I love that look. I think it was leather, but I've always thought that look was great. The red scarf and, like you said, the trench coat.
So next time you go to a convention, I want you to wear that jacket.
I will wear that. I will wear that. And see if people recognize who the character is. They should.
And just say, I'm not trying to be a character. This is just me.
This is just me. That's how I was going to wear. So
walk into work like that next tomorrow.
I will. They'll be like, "What are you supposed to be?" You're like, "I'm not supposed to be anybody. I'm just dressed like this."
I don't follow the trends. Yeah.
No, have you ever heard of Jerry Dandridge?
No. No. You know what I was just thinking of, and to be honest, like it was something I always thought, but at the same time, like I don't think about it, because when I look at Evil Ed, like I'm thinking, okay, he's a vampire, right? But he's a wolf, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's weird, right? Like he gets bitten,
kind
of looks like a vampire, but then at the end of the day, he's really a man wolf.
Yeah.
Like, it was a weird, right? I don't know if he was always meant to be a wolf.
I don't know.
But he turned to a wolf.
He did.
I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like I never understood that. I mean, as far as though the effects were just, man, that scene was intense and some of the best stuff I've ever seen. And I think in the documentary, they said they had to play a lot of it in reverse to make it work. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
And,
they have to do that.
Yeah, I mean that was such a cool scene, but looking back on it now, it's interesting, and I'm trying to make sense of it. And I don't know if in the documentary they explain that, because I guess he's wolf, right?
Yeah, a vampire wolf. I'm not sure because Fright Night Part 2 kind of has a similar character
True.
that way.
Okay.
So I don't know, but we talk about that. That's one of my favorite moments is the scene where he is the wolf, and then that whole kind of scene, him slowly changing back into a human, and Peter Vincent, just looking at him, and it's as a kid, it scared me. That scene scared me, and now watching it, it's kind of heartbreaking because this again, Ed is just a character that you feel for in this movie, and that moment where he's transforming back into a human and he's dying, yeah, awesome moment in the film. So, an amazing practical effects. Again, we got to talk about practical effects because that is one of the best. So,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at that and then try to replicate that feel with CGI. It just never works, and it's sad that there's not enough of that still going around. Because a lot of it, like, even ages way better than CGI does. Like, I can watch The Thing now and still be like, oh my God, that looks so fantastic. But then you try to watch something like Species now, and it's like, oh my God, that doesn't really age well at some of these scenes, and like, because that was like early CGI, and it does not age well at all. Like, I mean, if you try to watch something like Spawn, which was early CGI, there's scenes in that look like you're in a computer game. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see that, they don't do enough practical effects anymore, because it really does still, I think, stand the test of time in most cases. I mean, obviously there's some cheese and stuff here and there, but it never looks, actually, to be honest, I think some of the ones that look the worst, upgraded in 4K and all that stuff, is like a lot of the stuff like even Savini was doing in Friday the 13th. Like, that Kevin Bacon scene was one of the scariest scenes ever. Now it's like hard to watch, because have you seen it like in the new Blu-ray? It just looks like a head on a piece of clay, right? Like, it looks terrible now, bad.
Yeah.
But there's other movies that CGI still looks great, and it's just interesting because he was known for that kind of stuff, but a lot of those practical effects just don't do well with the new upgrades, I think.
I agree. A huge shout out to Steve Johnson, who did the practical effects in this, because I really feel like a lot of the movies that I watch where he worked on them still hold up the test of time. I mean, you look at Fright Night, you look at Ghostbusters, you look at Night of the Demons, which love that, and I can watch those practical effects and they still look great. So huge shout out to him. Steve Johnson's awesome. But no, I agree with you. I think practical effects will always hold up so much better than CGI, because CGI, like you said, some of it becomes outdated, and you can tell. And with, a movie like Fright Night and so many other films, the practical effects hold up so well. And this movie is almost 40 years old and still looks fantastic. So
yeah, it sure does. But, as a lot of people chiming in over here. What's up, Nick?
What's up, Nick? Let's go through some of these real quick. Say hello to people. By the way, thank you everybody for coming in. We really appreciate it. So, let's see. We got somebody mentioned in the comments, a couple of them, that Evil Ed was Hound from Hell. So
makes sense now. Yeah,
that makes sense. So let's go through some of these comments. Hello, Sue. How are you? Love both of your guys' channels. Off topic, Ryan, are you going to do a whole collection video or video soon? Fright Night is a great film. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do those collection videos. So I just kind of rearranged everything in the room. So we'll see what happens. But I got a whole new boutique shelf, and it's looking awesome. So but that will be coming sometime this year, definitely. And then something that we're going to talk about, definitely, Apollo, is Billy a zombie? I never figured out that one. So I guess we can talk about it right now. Is Billy a zombie, Garrett?
I don't know what he is. A ghoul, I think they said, or which again is still considered a zombie, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know exactly. Like, I think that's what he is, but the fact that with him turning to sand and stuff, it really is just doesn't. It just doesn't vibe or fit with the normal, what happens to zombie type thing. It's
Yeah.
definitely interesting that they didn't just make him, another vampire or anything like that. So it was kind of a weird avenue to go with that character. Which, again, with that character is a weird character too, because what is he? What is he? Just a servant? Is that like what he is? Like, I mean, as a young kid, you don't think anything of it, but
Yeah.
getting older now, you're like, yeah, what is his role here? Like,
I
what
know.
is it? Wasn't there one scene where he's like, what was he doing? Like painting his like washing his hands or something?
Yeah,
What
he
was
was
he doing?
watching his fans. So
you know, so
watching.
it's just funny, yeah.
Yeah, the Billy. That's a great. I mean, talk about a character. I mean, it might be he's one of my favorite characters in the movie because the first time you meet him, he's so intimidating and
He is,
so
yeah.
creepy. And I remember the first time I saw the scene, and I rewatching it today, it's still very effective. And it's the moment where he spots Charlie going to the basement, the cellar doors, and he comes out. He says, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" That
And then,
that's a good intimidating scene
oh,
right there.
definitely. And he's like,
Um,
nothing. And then he's like, well, keep it that way, kid. He like says it again or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
and
No,
then
that was a great first scene for him.
then you got the balcony moment where he's looking at him and Charlie's going to his house and he like kind of just leans forward like, creepy Billy moment. So yeah, Billy's a great character. But yeah, I think he's a ghoul too, and I think they talk about it in the documentary. But yeah, great character. Let's see. Paula also says fantastic soundtrack, but I prefer the Come to Me version from part 2. And I
Guess
agree.
what? Me too. I do
Me
too.
too.
I do as well. I love the one from part 2. I'm trying to think the difference. Is the part 2 got the female vocalist, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one a lot more as well. But yeah, the soundtrack for this movie is one of the best. I wish I brought my vinyl out here, but yeah, I mean, from head to toe, it's just the score, the in this with all the synth and the music. This is a great score and soundtrack. So anything anybody puts out anything for Fright Night, I'm all for it when it comes to that.
Same here. I went to a convention and they had these CDs. They were bootleg CDs, but they're hard to come by. So I got part 1 and part 2, and I love the soundtrack. So love them. Great music, and talk about a composer, Brad Fiedel, Terminator, so many great movies that he's been involved with, and this is one of my favorites. And Come to Me is a great song, and then you got like the just the 80s music in this, like the dance club music. I mean, I play that stuff. I play this music a lot. Like I was cleaning my house today and I was jamming to it. So
it's so good. Yeah,
it's so good. I love that "Give It Up" song. You were just singing it, so you were doing the music. I love that. The Beast Inside.
Yep. Then they had the song "Fright Night," which was cool, and I think it has a cool music video as well if you look it up on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, it was just loaded with some jams for sure.
It was. Love it. Sean Brown, I do love this movie, but it took me a few viewings over the years to appreciate it. And I think that's like that with a lot of us when it comes to movies. There's certain movies out there that take some viewings to appreciate. So, but I'm glad you appreciate it now. So awesome. Let's see. Ricky Hogan, what's up, Ricky? I love Ed Thompson. That character stole every scene he was in.
Yeah, he really did.
And then he says, I love Steve Jeffries in 976 Evil too. Or 976 Evil. I do too.
Well, yeah, me too.
Let's see. Some more love for Stephen Jeffries. Robert says Stephen Jeffries was in a lot of comedies in the 1980s. So awesome.
Yeah, Robert Long knows his stuff.
Joe, what's going on? Thank you for stopping in. We appreciate it. So, and then Robert says that part in the club with the security guard, that guy played in Friday the 13th Part 3. He did. He was.
He was. Yeah. Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great moment too in the club scene. Like just grab.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
The old vampire backhand. Yeah, he whacked him across the room. Hell yeah.
It really did. Let's see. And then Robert says that vampire. Oh yeah. Yeah. So pretty much. But you know what? I'll talk about that real quick. I love the relationship between Jerry and Amy. And Jerry is a character, in my opinion, that, and I could be wrong, and see if this makes sense, that you kind of sympathize with, because he's not your typical villain. Like again, when he first encounters Charlie and he tells him, I'm going to give you a choice that I never had, or I'm going to give you something I never had, which is a choice. I don't think he's like a typical villain. I mean, he's the villain of the story, but like he has heart in this. Like he, obviously falls in love with Amy, has a past history with somebody that looked like Amy. So, in my opinion, I don't think he's like a typical villain that we've had in movies. Like there's more about him than just a villain.
Yeah, don't you think though, now that you kind of bring that up, that maybe there was some room for more of a backstory on that with that woman who was in the painting that was supposedly somebody that he was in love with before? It would have been nice to kind of get a little more with that. So then when all that with Amy happened, it was a lot more, like you said, like sympathetic maybe. So.
I agree. I wish we would have had more history with that. So I think that would have been great. And just like all the other paintings like that he had of the other women, like who were they? Like were they, people that he was in love with at one point? So yeah, that would have been great. Going through these, let's see. Hey Eric, how are you? Hi, first live stream. Vampires can turn into bats, rats, and wolves. They can. So
what's up, man?
Let's see. And then we got going through these. You guys are awesome, by the way. So thank you for coming in and chatting with us. What's up, Nick? Oh, shit. Look at these handsome devils. It's getting hot in here. I agree. So.
Thanks, Nick.
And then, but yeah, thank you guys, by the way. Let's see. Ricky says Bram Stoker's novel Dracula can turn into a wolf. Yeah, and in the 1992 or 1990 movie, Gary Oldman, I think, turns into a wolf. So.
Oh man, you know what? I have not seen Bram Stoker's Dracula since probably, I don't know, when it came out on DVD. So I'm probably going on like 15 years. I think I've only seen it once. So it's definitely one I probably have to go back and check out again. It's been way too long.
Love it. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great one. That freaked me out as a kid too. So. That's another video at some point talking about that. And then Nick says, oh, look at that gorgeous X poster. I'm sure you've both seen it. I'm jealous. Don't tell me about it. Shut up. I'm seeing it this week. I loved it. I loved the movie. So
I loved it too. I don't want to say anything because again, I don't want to overhype it and then go in and be like, oh, dude, that was boring. Right. But put it this way, I say this about Fright Night, where it's really up my alley with the tone and how this was, had slight comedy to it. It was very, had a lot of horror to it. Not that it was the same at all, but what X is the style horror that I like now. I think when it comes to more modern horror, it's what I look for more in the horror movies that I like currently. So, if you look at a lot of like the Ari Aster stuff and more Ty West stuff and just the way that they do things in the tone, like it's similar in that same way. So I can see a lot of people maybe not liking it, but it was definitely something that I enjoy as far as how it was built out and stuff.
I completely agree. And Nick and everybody who hasn't seen it, stay for the end credits. I don't know if you stayed. Yeah. Oh, you did. Okay.
Oh yeah. You got it. Yep.
Just stay. You will love it.
I just posted a video at what time is an hour ago with my spoiler-free review. So if anybody hasn't seen it, wants to know a little about it, go check it out. I just dropped it like an hour ago.
Please do. So, but yeah, and then Robert, what's up, Robert? By the way, everybody else, thank you for stopping in. We really appreciate it. And then Robert says, I think he did the soundtrack for One Spin too, which that's another great movie.
Yeah, very underrated.
Very underrated soundtrack too. So And then Jay says, "Born to be Brad, please tell me you got a pair of the LA gear to go with that outfit."
Oh, no, I don't. I should probably get some. I've got some Reebok pumps and some old school Nikes, but no LA gear actually. So I probably have to get on that.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to this awesome guy here, Garrett, Born to be Rad, please do so. If you love movies, physical media, nostalgic stuff, you do a lot on your channel. Rad recommendations. Please go subscribe. Please do.
And I've got a rad recommendations with Justin, so go find it.
Oh yeah, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Another great movie there. So we talked, I mean, kind of going through these characters. We talked about Billy. We talked about Amy. Well, we talked about her a little bit, but I love the character Amy. This is another standout for me. And Amanda Bierce, another super nice person. This character has a great development throughout the film too. We talked about her relationship, with Charlie, and then we talked about the relationship with Jerry. And she has a transition through the movie. We talked about Amy the vampire, which just stands out. It's a great moment. But I absolutely love this character. And what I love about her is in the kind of the beginning of the movie, even though she doesn't believe Charlie at first, she loves him. So she is going to stand by him and help him any way that she can. So, the moment that I love is when she's, they go over to Charlie's house and he has the stakes and he's getting ready to go kill Jerry, and she convinces him not to do it yet. And a moment in line that I love is when Charlie says to her, "Amy, you don't believe me, do you?" And she says, "I love you, Charlie." So great moment. So great moment.
Yeah. She's definitely a strong character, and what's funny is the one character we haven't even talked about at all is Peter Vincent, which
is another thing I was gonna bring up.
which is another amazing character in this as well. I mean, Roddy Mcdowell, he's just so well known, and they even said, I think, that they were very shocked that he signed on to do this movie, because at the time he was just such a big name for him to kind of come into this movie. But I think he played that role so well, so believable. Like I said, as a kid, I thought he really was a horror host. I didn't know any otherwise. And I just thought it was a cool gimmick for him to be kind of a horror host, because, we never really got to see that, play out in a movie, just kind of on TV with some of these horror hosts that we grew up with throughout the years.
I agree. I always thought he was a horror movie host too. I always thought he was in, you see like the films that you see him as a vampire hunter in like these, Hammer horror movies that are throughout this film. And I thought they were I could be wrong, but I thought they were real films. I was looking them up and I was trying to figure out what these movies were, and it's just so believable. And Peter Vincent, he is the last character that we're talking about, but I think we're kind of closing these awesome characters with one of the best, if not the best. And love Peter Vincent.
Yeah. I agree, and I've always wanted to know that too. I was always looking and being like, as a kid, I was like, what are those movies he was in? And even because you figure that they had to have then just filmed scenes for the movie in black and white to put him in.
Yeah.
And there was always this one scene that I don't know if it was an accident. I don't know if it was done on purpose just to kind of show the goofiness of his character, but he's about to stake a vampire, but he has the stake backwards. And that always just irritates me all the time, because I'm like, what a stupid mistake if that wasn't done intentionally. It pisses me off to this day, because I'm just like, that bothers me. I'm like, unless that was done intentionally, how did they not catch that? You know what I mean? It just looks so ridiculous.
I was the same way. Every time I rewatch it, I'm like, why did he do that? Again, maybe it was something that they just thought would be funny. So, for the longest time, I tried looking up those movies. But you talk about Roddy Mcdowell as an actor. I love him, and I've seen him in other things. this Fright Night Part 2, a great movie, Legend of Hell House, which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Oh yeah.
I love that movie. He's great in that. Poseidon Adventure. What's that one? Cutting Class with Brad Pitt. He has a small part in that. So
you know what? Another one I love is Class of 1984. He's the teacher.
Yes.
Remember that goes that snaps or whatever. Yeah, great role in that as well.
Great role in that, and a great movie. That's something we should talk about at some point because I love that movie.
Love it.
1984.
It was always sad because I was always hoping to kind of meet him. Like he was somebody, that I always wish that, going to these conventions that he would have been alive to meet. Because I was lucky enough, and I think you said this as well, is meet a lot of the cast from Fright Night. I went to, I think it was Mad Monster Party. I went and met up with Pizzal there. I don't know where it was, but that was the reason they had the Fright Night reunion, and they had Tim Capello performing live for the first time.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Between those two things, like that was like the main reason I went. So that poster I have over my shoulder there, I have it signed by I have a Ragsdale, Jeffries, Amanda Bierce, Sarandon, Billy Cole, whatever his real name is, Steve Johnson, and even the detective is on that as well. Yeah, so it was cool to kind of meet all of them in one shot, and they did like a big reunion and a panel and all that stuff. So that was definitely cool. Sadly, no Tom Holland though was not there, so I didn't get to get him on that, which I'm hoping someday I do get the chance to meet him.
Me too, because I think for me, I have Amanda Bierce, Chris Sarandon, Stephen Jeffries, and William Ragsdale. So I need to meet the actor who played Billy Cole. The detective would be awesome, but yeah, Tom Holland, like that is somebody I need. That poster signed.
I know, and I'm surprised that, and I know he's done some conventions before with the cast. They just didn't happen to be the one I was at, and it would be nice to see him on a list because, I never see him on lists, and he's actually pretty active on social media too. And you figure he would have been somebody that they would have gotten to come back, unless it's just like he doesn't want to do. I mean, I'm almost at a point where I'm like, I would love to message him and be like, hey, if I send you this, can you sign it, send it back? But I'm afraid to put this thing in the mail. Yeah, like I'm just like afraid to kind of do that. So
I know.
Yeah, he's pretty active on social.
I know people have done that where they send things through the mail, but I'm always afraid it's going to get lost. So I'm like,
yeah, especially something that's already signed up. Like if it was like a Fright Night reprint poster that had nothing on it, and he was like the first one I wanted, I probably would do it and just say, well, I might be out $25 or something. But to send an original or to send something signed by all the other cast, that I would not do. But I see that Ken from Mid-Level Media comes in here. Ken,
what's up?
We're talking about the movie I keep telling you need to watch, and
Fright Night?
No, and I keep bugging him about it. But listen, at this point, I think he should probably just wait for the 4K because it's coming. So at this point, if you've gone this far, I would say wait for the 4K. But don't let us spoil this for you either. We're being pretty good with not trying to do that. But yeah, Ken. I also am nervous because I feel like I keep hyping this up to him.
Yeah.
And that's usually a sign that someone is going to be let down if they go into it with huge expectations, because, we did also see somebody in here that said it took him a few times to really get it, so, but who knows?
I mean, I have friends,
confidence though.
I have friends who have seen this movie and they're like, it's good. I'm like, it's good. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But Ken, you need to watch it. Wait for the 4K though. Hopefully we get that 4K soon. So
yeah, well, I mean, if you want to transition to that now, I have a few physical media releases, and we can kind of talk about that.
Real quick, Sean has a question. And he says, do you guys feel Amanda Bierce was an odd choice for that film? And I love her casting in this. And here's why. I think she's she's a very beautiful, charming, girl next door, likable character, and somebody that you would see like on the street. Like I don't, if that, am I describing it well? But I love the casting of Amanda Bierce. I adore her. So
I agree. I think she definitely feels like that girl next door, that high school girl that, is just a plain Jane. Like, she definitely feels like that. So when she does transform into what she transforms with, like, they made her extra sexy and stuff because that just wasn't her. And I think that she looks great, in that scene in the white dress when she first opens her eyes and has like the fangs or whatever, like that, or basically her in Dandridge's bed is like, you can just tell the difference between her and then the girl that you saw at the beginning. And I don't know many other people that can have such a big change that way. If I look at it now and I'm like, let's say I didn't watch this as a kid and I know who she is now, I probably would look back and be like, oh, I don't know if it would be a good choice. But at the time, I think it really worked. And, again, her being the neighbor in a sitcom also shows that she's kind of got that like girl next door type of feel,
Yeah. And a couple of things with Amanda. One, we talk about transition, like even in like the dance club scene where she's, where she's with Charlie, but then she starts dancing with Jerry. You kind of see like her hair changes a little bit, like her collar's popped up. Like you kind of see like that transition there too, which I think is really cool that they did that. But you talk about lines that I can quote and I know word for word, and it's the moment where she's downstairs in the basement with Charlie and she confronts him when she's the vampire. And I can quote the entire thing where she says, don't be frightened, Charlie. What's wrong? Don't you want me anymore? Like all that stuff. I that's one of my favorite moments in the film. So some of my favorite lines.
Well, I think it's it's an important and strong scene and line because her saying that to him, and then think of like the first line of the movie was he was trying to get her to do something she wasn't comfortable with yet. And, kind of like was the roles were completely reversed at that point where all of a sudden now it's almost like she became the one that, was a lot more forward. Yeah. And he was the one that was really taken back. So I think it works really well from beginning to end when it comes to her character because it's like a total role reversal. And you can see it both physically, I think, and from a mental standpoint.
Yeah. And it's also, I find it like the line that's heartbreaking for me another moment is when, she's messing with him, obviously, but her line where she says, you promise you wouldn't let him get me. You promise. Like, I don't know. That's a pretty little emotional line there. So, because, Charlie tried to save her and he couldn't do it at that time. So, or at that moment.
Right. Well, I'm gonna give props over here to Sean Brown. Make sure if you're not subbed to me, go do it, man, because I like these questions that you're coming out with because, man, nobody talks about Teen Wolf, number one, and number two, not many people I feel like know who Boof is, unless you're a real big Teen Wolf fan. And I'm a huge Teen Wolf fan, and Teen Wolf was a movie for me that was a definite. I'm gonna say it was another gateway movie to horror. Like to me, it was a comedy with some horror elements. Yeah, where it was an easy. My parents actually, I was a big Michael J. Fox fan. I mean, Back to the Future is probably my all-time favorite movie. And they taped Teen Wolf for me off TV, and my brother and I watched that movie till it basically broke from TV. And I could probably recite Teen Wolf line for line because I watched it so much as a kid. And I actually think this is a real good question because Boof is another one who I feel like I don't see her in a lot. I don't even know what else she was in. Maybe Robert Long in here does, but she was such a cool character in that movie that I'm surprised she wasn't in more. And looking at it now, I could see her as Amy in a very similar way. I think that there was a lot in common with those two characters. And it's just very interesting that you brought them up because I never thought about that before. And I think Boof and Amy or Amanda Beers have a lot of similarities. And no, I thought that was a real cool question because I'm a big Teen Wolf guy. So thanks,
Teen Wolf. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Teen Wolf fan here as well.
Hell yeah.
I'm a Teen Wolf Part 2 fan too. So.
Hey, I rented Teen Wolf 2. I can still remember it was at my mother my mom worked at a pharmacy. And they used to have, when I was a kid, like sometimes she'd bring me in there and like just let me run around and shit while she was like working or whatever, or she went in to get something. And they used to have VHS racks, like the spinny ones, and you could like rent or buy at like a pharmacy back in the day. And I remember me convincing her to let me rent Teen Wolf 2 because I was such a Teen Wolf 1 fan.
Yeah.
And you know, at the first time you saw it, you were a little confused. I was a little confused because I was hoping it was Michael J. Fox, and you know, then you had some of the same characters. Like, what really confused me of it was Styles not being the same.
Yeah.
Like, as a young kid, I was so confused on like what
Me
was
too.
going on.
Yeah.
But man, I love Teen Wolf too. I'll take it.
And I like I think I watched that more than the first one when I was a kid, and it's just because I rented it so many times at the video store. So I think I saw Teen Wolf 2 before I saw Teen Wolf 1.
Wow.
Which happened a lot with me. Like Grease 2 I saw before Grease 1, and my sister was like, "There's a Grease 1." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "How is this possible?"
So you just thought it was just Grease 2 was like the name of it?
I was like, well, I was a kid watching it on the TV,
Right.
and I'm like, "What is this movie?" And my sister was like, "There's a first Grease movie," and I think I was the same way with Mannequin. I think I saw Mannequin 2 before Mannequin 1, and it was because I had it on a recorded VHS tape. Was Mannequin 2, and again, my mom or sister was like, "There's a first one out there," and I'm like, "I need to see this." So
that's awesome.
um,
Does anybody know in the chat if what else Boof was
please.
in? Now he's got me on a Boof rant over here. Boof, Boof, Boof.
Well, why would you do that? Oh, what were you gonna say?
Teen Wolf 2, I was just gonna say, and this is so crazy. Like, if I was to ever meet Jason Bateman, I would have him sign a Teen Wolf 2 poster.
Same here.
Like, out of everything that dude's been in, I have an original one sheet of Teen Wolf 2, and I would march that thing right up there and have him sign it. I mean, to me, that's him. Like, that's how I always knew him, you know?
Dude, that's same here. Same here. Like, for me, Jason Bateman is Teen Wolf 2.
Yeah, and to think about how big of a star he's become.
I know.
Because was he kind of like MIA for a while? Like, I feel like after Teen Wolf 2, like, I feel like you didn't see him too much, and now all of a sudden he's like freaking everywhere.
I know. Like, I think Arrested Development kind of brought him back, and he's been in so much now. But yeah, I would bring Teen Wolf 2. I'd either bring a poster, I would buy a poster, or I would bring my Blu-ray. I'm like, "Can you sign Teen Wolf 2?
That is awesome.
Send Me an Angel, the song Send Me an Angel. I will always think of that song with Teen Wolf 2. There's that moment throughout it. So
that song's been in a lot of good movies. So that song, to me, I think of Teen Wolf 2, Rad, and The Wizard with Fred Savage has that song in it as well.
Confession, I've never seen
no. The Wizard. I saw The Wizard in theaters because being a huge Nintendo fan, it kind of probably shows my age here. Is I remember my parents took us there the day it came out because my brother and I were just like so crazy about Nintendo at the time. And Wizard's a guilty pleasure of mine, no doubt. Definitely one I think you should check out.
Let's talk some Fright Night. I mean, I love talking this stuff though. Like this.
Yeah. Let's talk Fright Night. I mean, I just have here a couple like physical media releases, and we can kind of talk about. I still think it hasn't got the treatment it deserves.
I agree.
And you know, we can kind of go through. I showed the VHS that I have, so I have the VHS here, and then I showed that the first DVD I ever bought was this Fright Night here.
Yep.
And then that's all you got for Fright Night 1 for a very, very long time, and then finally, you might have this too. Twilight Time was like that DVD company that was just. The Blu-ray company that was just putting things out for like a very short run.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they just randomly got Fright Night after all those years. They had 2 editions.
Yes.
Okay, so you have this edition too. I had both of them. I think I sold my other edition because this one has a couple features on it.
Yes.
So I kept that there. I think it might even come with like magnets or something. Let me just look in here.
Do I have my magnet still?
Yeah, I have. It's like a little magnet or something. It's just got the little logo on it.
I don't know if I have the magnet. I don't. So I have the booklet on the inside, but you had the first Blu-ray, which I had too, and I got rid of it. The transfer was really good, but I remember when they were releasing the 30th anniversary edition from Twilight Times, and they actually like improved the transfer a little bit more. So I mean, this is a beautiful transfer. And like you said, it took forever for this movie to get a Blu-ray treatment. And like you mentioned too, I still think this movie doesn't get the justice as far as physical media goes. I think we need, I know there's another Blu-ray after this, but I hopefully we get the 4K and maybe some brand new features or something. I don't know. So
Yeah, you're definitely right. And remember, like when nobody really knew what Twilight Time was about, and I think Fright Night might have been their first release, and I
Yeah,
grabbed it right away because I
me
knew. And
too.
then for whatever reason, it's like it just went out of print, and that Fright Night Blu-ray was worth so much money at the
Yes.
time from Twilight Time because no one, I think, was expecting it to be that limited. So when this one was announced, I sold off my other one. I mean, I got way more than I paid for it, but now that this one was coming out, it wasn't going for as much money as it was at one point. But I can remember like thinking in my head like that this was the last Fright Night Blu-ray, like
Hmm.
in my head. And I have to give credit to Christian Hanna. He must have either did a video or posted about it, and he posted like another Blu-ray, and I'm like, that's some kind of like bootleg. Like, there's no other Blu-ray out, at least from the States. Like, I thought maybe from out of the country, like there might be a couple, but like I'm like, there's nothing. There's no way because how would I have missed that?
So, yeah.
So I went online, and sure enough, there is,
Hmm.
and I swore up and down. I'm like, this can't be real. This has to be some kind of bootleg. I still don't understand what this is. Like, when
And,
did this come out, and how did it not be a bigger deal? It just kind of like snuck out.
and
And the thing with this is, it's got the features are awesome on this.
yeah. I mean, huge shout out to my buddy Brian Petrosky. Big, awesome guy, my best friend, but loved the guy. I told him about that Blu-ray. I don't think he had I could be wrong. I don't think he had the Twilight Times Blu-ray. And I know this went out of print. I told him you need to pick that up because we'll talk about the documentary, but the You're So Cool Brewster documentary, I believe, is on
It is, and
that
that's what's
Blu-ray.
crazy. Like, this literally could be like the features of a Scream Factory collector's edition, like with
Yeah.
what's on it. There's like that documentary is, which I have here as
What do you
well. I
mean?
don't know if you have a standalone of it.
I
Did you get
do.
that?
I do. Right here.
Yeah, this was another big deal for me. I think I also got like a hardcover book with it too.
Sweet.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is a great addition. It's like multiple discs, but the fact that this is on here is mind blowing to me because this was a pretty expensive
Mm-hmm.
purchase at the
$35,
time.
I think. 35,
Yeah,
maybe more than that.
and it's loaded with stuff. And
Like
that's what's crazy to me that this is on here because that's got to be a couple out, maybe like a 2-hour doc. It's got to be.
it's 3 hours actually. I
Yeah.
think 3 hours long because I know they cover Fright Night and then they cover Fright Night Part 2 and they talk about the remake a little bit. But guys, like if you are looking to get Fright Night on Blu-ray and if you're wanting an amazing documentary, I know this is out of print, but that Blu-ray that Garrett just showed, awesome
It's like
transfer, like
it's kind of
bonus
dirt cheap.
features.
It's like not
Yeah.
expensive, and it says it came out from Sony. Oh no, yeah, Sony.
So
I don't know.
2018 maybe is when that came out. Like I don't
2019, and
2019.
why this wasn't like a bigger deal at the time, like why people weren't like, oh my god, it's coming out with this huge edition. Because for a fan like me, a Fright Night fan, my eyes and ears would have been all over this.
Mine
And
too.
I have no idea how this kind of just snuck out. I mean, it's kind of like plain looking, like there's nothing to it. It's just the regular poster art. It's got like just a like little white cover. Like, I mean, they put a lot of effort into it, but it not what I think Fright Night deserves. And I'm hoping that this 4K isn't just going to be like a plain old slap 4K on it, give it a transfer and call it a day. Like, I would like to see somebody put a little time and effort into it,
I completely agree. Put the effort into it because this movie, we've had these physical media releases, but like you've said, like I've said, this is a film that we both love. It's a movie that people love and cherish, but I feel as far as physical media goes, like it still deserves more justice. And that Blu-ray that you just showed, I think that is actually like not a made on demand, but kind of limited Blu-ray. So like they only made certain amounts. It wasn't going to be like a mainstream title that they were going to release in stores. So,
Oh wow. I mean, and that's what's crazy too. Like, why such odd treatment for that?
I know.
And like, why are we not seeing Fright Night put out by Scream Factories, Fright Night being put out by Arrow? Like,
Yeah.
why are we not getting these big editions like we're getting for all these other movies. Like, I mean, for instance, I just what I just get? I just got something, and I'm like, oh, this is great, but I'm like, Fright Night deserves this kind of treatment. Oh, I think it was the new Arrow American Werewolf. Like, why aren't we getting something like that? Which is just insane to me. And I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if Sony or whoever owns Fright Night is like, no one's having it because they realize that it's got a big following. I don't know, but I see Wes from, I think it's either Wes or Uncle Bill, one of them.
How you doing, guys?
And yeah, I mean, I hope. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm excited for something new, but to not get a special, I don't know. Like, it sucks, because
I agree.
It deserves way more.
I mean, this movie, though, like, in my opinion, I mean, we're wearing these cool Fright Night t-shirts, but I still think, like, as far as merchandise and everything goes, like, Fright Night still hasn't got the justice either. Like, it needs more. Like, I feel like it needs more. I think it just...
Oh, it definitely does.
I mean, it needs more. Definitely. But what's going on? Awesome guys here, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, it seems like the new 4K is just a new transfer, so... I hope we get some more love for Fright Night. Fright Night needs more love. But I want to show something off that I have, which I remember getting at, I think, my second or third convention. It was the first Days of the Dead show in Indianapolis. And this is a Fright Night painting.
Ooh. Oh, that's killer, dude.
Yeah. So you got Jerry, you got Evil Ed, Amy, Charlie, and Peter Vincent.
That's killer, man. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, is that something that you have still displayed in the room, or is that something that kind of makes it? Oh, cool.
Oh, it's displayed like right in the corner over there next to my Sour Patch dude. So, yeah, I got that. So that's like,
I love that thing.
Thank you. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, I don't care how much it is, I'm grabbing this thing because Fright Night for me is just it's one of the best. I adore this movie. So
yeah, and I think if it got a nice release, more people would be talking. Like, again, we know Fright Night is a huge name movie. It's a top tier horror movie, right? But you don't see a lot of Fright Night on social media, like people showcasing stuff and talking about it because nothing's out. Like nobody's putting anything out where it's going to give people reasons to kind of chat about it. Which again, like you said, is unfortunate for sure. And I have something I brought over here too. So I don't usually do these kind of things, but Mad Monster Party, when they had that reunion, Evil Ed did the makeup.
That's so cool.
So so I got that little picture with him just because, again, how iconic the character was, and he did the fangs and the makeup and stuff. So that was kind of cool. And another thing is this shirt. If anybody likes this Fright Night, it's basically like a rip on Saturday Night Fever, but it's Jerry and Amy.
Yeah.
This was a Fright Rags April Fool's Day exclusive a couple years ago, and they're re-releasing it this April Fool's Day. So if you guys like it, it's going to be back in stock, I think, for the first time in like 2 years, I believe. Yeah. So
and the one I'm wearing, this is I found this on Amazon. So
is that Rotten Cotton?
Yeah, I don't know who it is, but I was like, I love the print. It's comfortable. It fits well, so it's awesome.
I mean, iconic logo, iconic image. It still works. I know we're not really going to talk about the sequel too much here today, but in my opinion, the sequel is a very good sequel. It's not as good as the first, but it works really well. And that image, and I think you might have the poster too, of the apartment building with the same face. Like, how cool is that they have that image, like, to kind of mimic the first one? Like, I always found that really cool that they did that.
I love that poster. I think, I have that poster too. It's fantastic artwork. And, I remember my buddy Brian was pretty jealous when I was able to snag it up because we were both at the convention, and I was like, I got a Poltergeist 3 poster and Fright Night Part 2, I think, for $60, one sheet.
Wow.
So, and he was like, I kind of wanted to take these, and I'm like, you ain't taking them.
He would have wrestled you for them.
I know. But talking about Fright Night Part 2, because I do want to talk about this.
Sure.
I remember the memories I have with this. I think I have probably the best memories with. Fright Night is the best of the two, but like Fright Night Part 2, I remember going into a local mom and pop video store and first coming across it on VHS, renting the movie. And I think I watched it 3 times before I brought it back. And I would constantly rent this movie, and then see it on TV. And so Fright Night Part 2 for me, it has a fan base, but it doesn't have the big fan base that it deserves. And it got a limited run in theaters. I know it kind of had like the history with it had something to do with the Mendez brothers murders.
Yeah.
And I know it got a limited run, but Fright Night Part 2, I adore this movie. It's another one I love. And while I think the first one's better, it's equally up there with it. So I think it's a great continuation.
Yeah, I agree. And back on the story, when I talked about my initial first time I ever saw Fright Night was like early 90s on TV. And it was actually a back-to-back double feature with Part 2. So I watched both the first time, the same time. Yeah. So it really felt like a nice continuation. The first one where you have like Jerry's sister now as kind of the main villain, I guess. And, I loved Part 2 as well, especially because I always love sequels that have like characters that are back. So like to have Jerry, to have Charlie and to have McDowell there, Vincent there was huge. That kind of helped with it. And I think the reason it doesn't have as much love is because I don't think enough people have seen it because of its limited theater run. It was on TV because we both saw it there.
Yeah.
The VHS, I guess, was pretty readily available, but the DVD was not. So I think because of, yeah, buddy, look at this.
There we go.
And you know what? Like, this is like a holy grail in DVD land, right? So
holy grail.
And I can talk about how I've talked about this on past
talk about it though.
But I can remember being a big fan of this movie, and I saw the DVD at stores multiple times. This was back when like Best Buy actually had like boatloads of horror movies. And I can remember specifically I had a certain amount of money and I went in there to buy a horror movie, and this was on the shelf. And I had already had the first one. So I was like, I had it in my hand. I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy Part 2. And then I saw the Suspiria DVD, that thick box. And I had never seen anything like it. I actually never saw Suspiria up that point. And I think the back said like the scariest movie ever made or something. And to see in that big double box, that thick DVD, I was just like blown away. So I put this down saying, I'll get this another time. I'll get this anytime. And then I grabbed Suspiria, and then I saw it again. I'll be like, I'll get it. I'll get it eventually. Well, then all of a sudden it was just like gone. Like this was like impossible to locate. It just went out of print and never came back out. So I was kicking myself big time for that for so long that I'm like, I missed out on this. I'm going on eBay. It's boatloads of money. And so what I decided to do was I ended up being like, well, you know what I'm going to do? I went to every video store like within like my state trying to find this. Finally, I found it on a shelf at a Blockbuster, and I grabbed it and I walked up to the front and I said, I'm not going to return this. So how much would this cost me to buy? And the guy's like, oh, you're not going to return it? I'm like, I'm not. And it has the book in it. It has the disc in it. Yeah. So I'm like, listen, like I will buy this from you right now. What do you want for it? I think the guy was like, oh, give me $20. So I gave him 20 and I took it home. So that was like how I got this thing. Luckily, it was like long gone at the time. And I was so excited. I remember coming home feeling like I just like found a buried treasure, like with this thing in my hand, because I just knew how sought after it was. And it still is.
It is.
And, there's some rumblings going around about this seeing the light of day very soon. So, there hasn't been anything official announced. There's some rumors here and there, but definitely keep your eyes and ears open, because it seems like this is heading in kind of the right direction, but nothing has been formally said yet. So
yeah, I mean, Sean Brown says part 2 is on YouTube, which is awesome. So if you haven't seen part 2, definitely go watch it because again, you love it, I love it. It's equally up there with the first one. And you mentioned it. I love movies and sequels that kind of continue on where like the last one left off, and part 2 does that. I've always loved the back of this DVD, the image right there on the very top. It's when Regina's a vampire, and you don't see that in the movie. That one scene, not that
the sideways
picture,
one. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's on the back of the DVD.
I see it up there. It almost like like that. So that exact image is not in here.
No, it's not. Like
it's been a while since I've seen it. So yeah.
Well, I think in the making of, actually, like in this documentary. Now, I don't know if the recent Fright Night Blu-ray has like mention of part 2, but in the You're So Cool Brewster documentary, they do talk about that scene and they talk about that makeup, and somehow it just didn't work and they didn't put it in the movie. But it's just funny that it's on the back of the DVD. So
yep.
But yeah, part 2. Again, we won't talk about the characters too long, but I love the brand new characters in this. I love Regina Dandridge as a character. I love her kind of group of people that are with her. You have the vampire on the skates, which has always been a great one. The werewolf, and then the hunchman, which we've seen in so many movies.
The big dude from Cobra.
Yeah. So the bug guy, which I love. So but yeah, and Tracy Lynn, who is a great actress who I remember from like Boyfriend's Back and Fright Night Part 2 kind of just disappeared. Like no one knows what happened to Tracy. But yeah, part 2, I love it. And again, hopefully we get that Blu-ray. I have a feeling, and I don't know obviously, but I have a feeling I would love if maybe Vinegar Syndrome, maybe Vestron Video, somebody released that movie. So
well, what's funny is I do have this, which was given to me by somebody years and years ago. That's really, they're really in the thick of things in physical media, and they work on special features for companies and stuff like that. And this is an HD version of the movie, and I mean, he put this together, I believe, and it looks great. Like as far as the quality and all that stuff, it's kind of been my placeholder. Okay, so you have something similar to as like a placeholder, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he made this or got this or whatever, but he gave it to me. And I'm looking at the back now. I don't know what yours says on it, but mine says on it. Mine says Lionsgate. Does yours say that on there?
Yeah, mine says Lionsgate too. So
I'm thinking to myself, like, why does it say that? Do they own this movie right now?
Okay.
And if they do, then it's already given us a hint on what studio or where this thing could go.
So this DVD came from Artisan. Which Artisan, if you guys know Artisan, they're not around anymore, but Artisan released this. And I've noticed that some of the Vestron titles have been Artisan DVDs transferred over to Blu-ray. So if anybody does it, and again, I don't know if they're doing it, but if anybody does this, I have a feeling it might be Vestron. I think if Lionsgate or whoever owns it still owns it, I have a feeling it could be Vestron Video.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good I would say
there's time there. Like
for sure.
This Blu-ray, it's a made-on-demand Blu-ray, but I mean the transfer is beautiful. I don't know where they got the transfer. Gorgeous transfer. Mine has you can watch the brand new Blu-ray transfer, or if you want to watch the old school DVD transfer, it has it on there too. It has some features on here, so pretty cool thing. I mean, until we get a nice Blu-ray, this is
definitely a good placeholder for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Get through these. Let's see some of these comments real quick. Hello, Jamie.
Jamie Hart.
Hello, Jamie. What's going on, Jamie? Let's see. Jason says, love Fright Night. I rented the VHS at Blockbuster so many times that my parents bought a copy so I would quit renting it. I love that. Awesome. And then Jason also says, I have a distinctive dummies figure of Jerry, Charlie, Evil Dead, Peter Vincent, Evil Ed, Peter Vincent, and Amy. All worth a lot of money. Holy grails for me. That is awesome, Jason.
Yeah, Jason must be a pretty good collector because distinctive dummies are not something that many people know. You gotta kind of be in the know. It's like figures. It's basically like this guy does custom horror figures that almost really resemble like the Mego figures, kind of like what NECA does now, where they have the figures with the clothes on them, like the cloth stuff.
Okay.
So you really got to kind of be in the know to know distinctive dummies, and yeah, they're very limited edition, and they do become valuable. So to have all those from Fright Night, he's obviously a pretty good collector. So yeah, that's cool, Jason. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, there we go. X, awesome movie, guys. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, and then real quick, I mean, because we're talking about Fright Night, I mean, you've seen we'll talk about him briefly, but you've seen the remake? Have you watched the remake?
Yep.
But did you see this in theaters? Was this something you saw? Okay.
I actually saw this. This came out at the same weekend I went to a Monster Mania convention in New Jersey, and I went with my friend Mike, and I said, "Hey, let's go to see this that night after the convention ends." So he's like, "All right, cool." So what's funny is Jerry Dandridge or Sarandon was at that convention, and I got his autograph that day. And when I went up to him, I said, "Hey, we're going to see the new Fright Night remake tonight. It opens." And he like looked at me and he's like, and he just gave me like a smile, and he was like, "Make sure you don't blink," or something like that, because he shows up in it, right? And we were like, "Oh!" So when we went to go see it, we were like, we had the 3D glasses on and stuff, and we were like, "Oh shit, he's in it." But you know what's funny is I bought it because I'm a completist. This, that, and this. I haven't seen it since that night. So if you said to me, "What'd you think?" When I saw it in the theater, I was like, I love Fright Night so much, it just didn't work for me. But I have not seen it since that day. So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what your opinion is on it, because I don't really, I'm going to say I didn't like it, but it's been a long time.
I've seen it like 3 times throughout I can't believe this is like 10 years old, by the way, or almost 11 years old. Like, that's crazy to think that. But yeah, the first time I saw it, I wasn't a fan. And I think it was just because, my love for the first one, I just loved it so much that when I first saw it and I saw the way they kind of changed characters around, and then the CGI in the movie, I wasn't too crazy about it. But rewatching it, this is a film that I actually like now. I don't love it, but I like it. And the thing about remakes, good or bad, hopefully when people, if they see the remakes before the originals, they can go back and watch those original films. So like Fright Night being one of those movies, if you had never seen the original, hopefully you went back and watched it. Or if you don't know about it until now, definitely go watch it. But it's a good movie now. Like, I can watch it and I like the film. So I like it for what it is. And Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. He's great in the movie. Toni Collette's in it. Colin Farrell. I'm kind of mixed. I have mixed feelings about how they portrayed Jerry Dandridge in it. But yeah, I like it. It's a decent remake. So I don't know how well it did in theaters, though. I don't know if it was a big hit or. I'm
not sure how it did either. I also kind of think, though, that something like a Fright Night could be, because it's not crazy over the top, or like you said, there's a lot of things about it that can, that can kind of transcend into now. I think it's another movie that could maybe be remade. Like, I look at something like, did you see Summer of '84?
I haven't seen that one yet. I need to watch that.
Okay. So I look at something like that and think to myself, okay, they could have easily made this Fright Night. Like, It's not as much to do with the vampires, but the idea of them being in like the suburbs in a neighborhood, playing manhunt at night, looking around at all the neighbors. Hey, this guy's kind of weird. This guy's kind of weird. And you know, one of your neighbors that maybe you love, that you've known since you were a kid, is a vampire and killing people. Like, I mean, I think that if you took that premise and put it in that movie, it would have actually worked really well. But again, I think it just takes the right person to do it. And again, I might rewatch this just because I feel like, I don't know if the remake was able to do it that well, because I just remember like it was a weird town that they lived in. Like it wasn't a real neighborhood. It was like kind of like almost like a built, I don't know. It was almost like they were in like their own little secluded island or something.
It was outside of Las Vegas, like, because I remember there's a Las Vegas, like they go to Las Vegas at one point. Because Peter Vincent is like a music. He works in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
You know, my biggest problem with the movie, though, honestly, was the way that the characters were written. I didn't care for how Jerry was portrayed in the movie. As much as I love Colin Farrell, I just was kind of disappointed at how they wrote him. The characters were the biggest issue for me. I think some could have been developed more. I think some could have been written better. The CGI was a big part too. Like we talked about it throughout this stream, is like practical effects. They're amazing, and they really stand. Overall, they stand the test of time. Now, some don't, but a lot of the practical effects in movies are still perfect today, especially Fright Night. And I think if they would have used more practical in the Fright Night remake, I think I would have liked it even more. Because yeah, it kind of stands out. Like I'm not a fan of the CGI. So
now after that, though, I do have this, which, man, I don't know. I don't even remember anything about it. They go off to college in like another country or something. That's all I remember.
So I think this movie, because I've only seen it once too, and oddly enough, the first time I saw this, and I've only seen it once, so it's been almost 10 years again. I remember liking it more than the actual remake. But again, I haven't seen it in such a long time. But I remember liking the setting. This felt more, because this is not connected with this one at all. Like,
which is weird, right? Like that's another thing that always kind of bothered me, because I was expecting a sequel to this, and then when you got this, it was like, wait, it's not connected, but it's called Fright Night 2. Like, it's weird.
It feels more like a remake. Like this actually feels more like, and this might be odd to say, but this feels more like a remake to the original Fright Night than the actual remake that we had. Now, again, I've only seen it once, but you're right. Like they called it Fright Night Part 2. It's not connected to the remake at all. So I think that was more like a cash grab, like call it Fright Night Part 2, slap Part 2 on it, and get people to buy it. But yeah, it went straight to video. Again, I liked it. I remember liking it more than the remake, but I've only seen it once, so I don't know what my opinion would be now if I rewatched it. So maybe I need to have
I was saying I might have to have a back-to-back, but at the same time, it's going to probably be on the tail end of my list. I've got so much stuff to watch. It's like insane. But I mean, I haven't seen I saw both of those once. I remember very little about, especially the second one, at all. So I can't really voice on that too much.
But anyway, guys, real quick, I mean, do you have any more items? Anything else you want to talk about right now?
No, I think I went through everything over here as far as physical media for the film, and I'm thinking 2022 should be a pretty big year for Fright Night, hopefully, because there's a 4K that's like being pushed, rumored right now. Like we talked about with Fright Night 2, it's as close as it's ever been. So it could be a good year for the franchise, and I just hope that it starts to pick up more steam with just more people talking about it, because it really just deserves it. And I know everybody loves it, but like I said, because it hasn't had anything new physical media wise, there isn't a lot of stuff going around on social media or anything about it. So it'd be nice to kind of get more Fright Night love.
I completely agree. So. But if you guys, real quick, if you guys have questions, comments at all, please let us know. I want to say once again, thank you, Garrett, for being a part of this stream. Like, I'm so happy I got to talk Fright Night with you. So couldn't think of a better person to talk Fright Night with. So
well, I appreciate that. Like I said, I was actually very excited when you told me about this series and you mentioned you were doing Fright Night, and I was like, oh man, that's perfect. So yeah, I'm happy, and thank you again for having me on. And hopefully, we were able to throw out some good nuggets and some people had a good time in here.
I agree. I hope you guys had a blast. If you guys have comments, questions, please feel free for a little bit. We'll stay on just a little longer, but do you have anything coming up, like any videos, anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I have this coming Thursday. I'll be streaming, simulcasting with the boys at Dead Pit. We'll be doing. We're going to be doing a Vinegar Syndrome live show because they're dropping a new sale on Thursday or Friday morning at midnight, kind of thing. So we'll be doing that late night on Thursday night, going into Friday morning. And what do we got coming up? We've got something else coming up too. Man, you know what? We have Final Four coming up, which is kind of a take on the NCAA thing there, where we're taking 4 directors. So we've got oh my God, Wes Craven, we've got Romero, we've got Hooper, and we've got Carpenter, and we're gonna each take their last films that they did and make a 4-team bracket and do like a little tournament style. So we have to rewatch like Survival of the Dead. We got to rewatch what's
the Ward,
the Ward, and then Soul to Take. We're gonna use as Craven. So we're gonna do a little 4-way tournament with those last movies from those dudes. So kind of a cool concept, and I'm gonna revisit those movies which I have not seen since they came out. So should be kind of interesting to kind of rewatch those things.
I remember loving The Ward. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I remember loving it. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Well, I mean, I think there's a good chance that may win this tournament then, because I already watched 2 of them so far, and one was like unwatchable, and the other one was passable. So it's been a long time since I've seen the other 2, and The Ward isn't one that I've watched so far yet. Again, I think I only saw it when it first hit Blu-ray or something like that years and years ago. So
we need another Carpenter movie. I mean, it's been 10 years, 11 years. Come on, John. That's all I'm saying. I would love it. Jamie says, I thought The Ward was all right. It didn't suck, LOL. Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't think it went to theaters too much. I think it had a limited run, but I remember it being fun. So I remember the atmosphere being really good. But yeah, and as far as anything going on with me, next Sunday, actually, Ken Sledgehammer Horror and Ashley Sledge, they're going to be on a retrospective of memories, and we're going to be talking about Stephen King's Sometimes They Come Back, which love that movie. Again, talk about another underrated movie that doesn't get enough love. So
no, not many people talk about that one at all.
No, it's so good. And then I have some others in the works that I want to do in April. I want to do a I don't know if you've ever seen it. You probably have, but Runaway with Tom Selleck.
Oh, Tom Selleck, Runaway. Yeah.
Dean Simmons, 1984. So be talking Runaway, and then thought about doing a Flatliners retro.
That's cool, man. Get some movies in there that not many people are talking about. That's cool.
Yeah.
So wait, does Runaway have a Blu-ray?
It has, and let me go get it because I do have a Blu-ray.
Okay. So all right, there's a comment coming in from I don't know, Ewan Thomas. What sort of horror film would you guys want as John Carpenter's next movie?
Ooh, okay.
Oh man,
what do you want?
I mean, I would love something original. I'm hoping for more original stuff, and we talked about this earlier today. So, if you guys see X or you go and so, what was nice about it is that it's an original movie, and it's not just a remake or a prequel or a requel or anything like that. So I kind of hope to get him to do something different because, you know, and he's got so many iconic movies. It would just be nice for him to kind of end with a bang, you know, and have something else that we can look at, you know, years and years down the road as something special. So that's what I would do. But exactly what the concept, I have no idea.
I don't either. I mean, but yeah, I agree with you. Something original, and then have an iconic John Carpenter score with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his music like is a character in a movie itself. So I love the fact that he's doing the music for Firestarter coming up. Like, Carpenter to do the music for that is awesome. And little fun fact, I don't know if you know this, but like he was originally attached to direct the original Firestarter.
Yes.
And got fired because of how poorly received the thing was. So
I know. I think about that. Like, how crazy is that? And the thing is looked at now as like one of the best, right? So
it is. Yeah.
I mean, I would have actually, to be honest, like now that you kind of bring that up, I would think him going out with a bang and actually get to direct the new Firestarter and have his own music would have been a real cool way to go.
Yeah.
Go out, because it's like that one movie that he was supposed to do, but that never did. And his last movie was a new version of that, kind of on his take and with his music. Like, I think that would have really been a good chapter, you know, bookend to his career. I think now that you bring that up,
that would have been great. And I also had an idea, and I think it was talked about a long time ago, but he wanted to do a TV show based on his movie Prince of Darkness. Which I think would have been really cool. Because Prince of Darkness, one of my favorite Carpenter movies, probably his scariest movie, in my opinion. And I would love, it's not original, but I would love to see where another movie would pick up within the world of Prince of Darkness, especially with how the movie ends and, you know, the dream sequence in the film. I would love that. So,
yeah, that's another movie I absolutely love too, that I feel like people love it, but they don't talk about it enough, is Prince of Darkness. And the one thing that I remember in that movie, and it's very subtle, but the one thing where I was like, man, like this is such a well done movie, and it's something so different, was that opening where they're like at the school and all that stuff, and you're meeting all the characters, and he just had that score like very softly in the background, like boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Like it literally played for like 15 minutes nonstop as you're kind of meeting everybody and they're talking about what they're going to do. And to me, that was just, there was something about that you just like, that never happens. Like he just had an very soft score going on like nonstop through that whole like first 15 minutes of the film. And I don't know, something about that always just has grabbed me. And I was just like, man, this movie is something special. And then from there, it just gets bonkers. But the little things that Carpenter did, I think, is just so iconic. Now, what I don't know, did he do music for The Ward or no, not even?
No, he didn't do music for The Ward. Like, he didn't do music for Ghost of Mars. I don't think he did music for Ghost of Mars or The Ward. So I think.
Well, think about that. Like the two movies that he's done that are probably his worst, I think, and he didn't do the score for. Like, you know, I would definitely say if he's going to do something again, which I see Deadpit down there doesn't think he is, but he needs to do the score with it for sure.
I don't know what my least favorite Carpenter movie would be. It'd probably be Ghost of Mars, but I'm not gonna lie, like I can probably have a good time with it. And
I haven't seen Ghost of Mars in I can't even tell you how long. I've seen it like once. Yeah. I thought it was an ass, so I haven't gone back to it. But another one that not many people give enough credit to is Mouth of Madness.
Oh, yes, I love that movie.
I think that's a great movie, and I think, you know, even if they decided to kind of do another spin-off with like Sutter Kane or whatever, like I think it could work, you know. But yeah, I think that's a very underrated one.
You want to talk about a movie that terrified me as a kid was In the Mouth of Madness. And it was the moment. And I tell you what, it is the moment in the film when and this is, we're spoiling a little bit, guys. I apologize if you've never seen it, but when Sam Neill and Julie Carmen are leaving the town and they get in the accident, like I'm trying to recall a little bit, and she comes out of the car and her head's backwards and she's crawling on the ground. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but like for me as a kid, that terrified me as a kid. I was like, what is this? It's one of my favorite Carpenter movies. Easily, probably. I think I did a Carpenter ranking not too long ago, and I think it's number 6 or number 5 for me. So as far as one of Carpenter's best and underrated ones. So he's got a lot of underrated movies though. Like Carpenter's underrated as far as like his films go. He's got a lot of underrated movies that people need to watch. So
agree.
Yeah. And then we got Dead Pit says, hey, Ghost of Mars is underrated. Jamie says Ghost of Mars is a guilty pleasure of mine. And Robert says, I always thought The Fog was the scariest and creepiest. The Fog's scary. The Fog is
Fog to me is one of those movies, like a comfort movie. I could put The Fog on at any time and just like enjoy it and just almost like kind of be chilled out. Like if I'm working or I'm doing something, like that's like a perfect movie for me to have on in the background. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the tone, the setting, or what it is, but something about The Fog is just something that I'm always throwing that on all the time. And I think that's definitely going to get a 4K very, very soon from Screen Factory. So
yeah, I got the UK 4K, and the transfer is beautiful. Yeah, it's a gorgeous transfer. So,
well, I think they're ripping them all from. Is that Studio Canal one?
Yeah, Studio Canal.
They're all these new ones that they're doing is all that same transfer because it says it on the back. It says transfer by Studio Canal. So, like, if you don't really want to have to double, triple dip on these things, like the Howling and all that, or whatever that They Live or whatever you have there, they're all the same transfers over there, and no new special features or anything either.
I know though with Screen Factory the audio is a little bit better, so I think they're using a different track. They're doing a different track, but the transfer is gorgeous. So if we ever get a Fog 4K from Screen Factory, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna double dip because that's who I am. But yeah, I would love. Hopefully they do it soon. So and then Devitt says, "G marks out when Fall Out Boys comes on the Fog."
Not that Fog.
I saw that in theaters though. I'm not gonna lie, I saw it in
You
theaters.
did? Yeah. No, I didn't see it in theaters, but it was I saw it once when it first came out on DVD, hated it, but to be honest, I've never gone back. So it would be one of those ones that might be interesting to go back and just see if it's as bad as you remember, because to me, I remember it being pretty bad.
And again, this is teenage Justin. I saw this in theaters. I saw the original Fog before we saw it in theaters, and I remember going with a group of friends, and they were all terrified of it. And I was sitting there going, I like the movie, but this is not scary. Like, go and watch the original Fog. Yeah. I had somebody like grabbing onto their like the side of their seat, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, come on.
That's so funny.
But Runaway real quick. I was going to show you this Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Overseas Blu-ray region free. It's a Sony Pictures Blu-ray from overseas. So let's see. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but AOCH Media released it. So
now, to me, that screams like Kino Lorber all over. I don't know, like what's the deal? I wonder with that.
I don't know what the issue is with this one. I don't know why we haven't got a Blu-ray of this, because you think that, like you said, Kino or even those Mill Creek retro VHS flipcover Blu-rays, somebody would release this.
I agree.
This is a fun one. Like, this is one of those movies that we had on a recorded VHS tape, and I watched it over and over and over again. Gene Simmons as the villain, he's kind of creepy in it. Kirstie Alley, one of her first performances. Cynthia Rhodes, Tom Selleck. I mean, this is a fun 80s movie, and it's definitely something that I'm wanting to do as far as like a memories and retrospective stream goes, and probably just a review on this, taking a look back at Runaway and talking.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I love when people do out of the box stuff. So like, for instance, like, again, I don't know anybody that does Runaway, right? So that's definitely something that interests me is when people, have special loves for movies that aren't normally talked about, and kind of hearing why and what their memories are and stuff. Like, I love that stuff.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. So I want to talk some Runaway love. That movie needs a little bit more love. I have to tell you, so I watched your rad recommendation on Run, and I bought a DVD copy of it.
Heck yeah, man! Yeah, hopefully you really like it. I think you will, knowing kind of what your style is. I just think that's one. It's funny because even when we did the review, nobody in the chat really knew about it. So it was a hard one to kind of interact with because everybody was like didn't know anything about it. So very interesting to me what the deal was with that, and why we haven't seen it. But hopefully you like it, give it a little bit of love, and maybe somebody will see it and try to release it.
I'm excited to watch it. And then you guys were Patrick Dempsey movies. Can't Buy Me Love. We need a Blu-ray of that. Lover Boy, which is another one I love. So, the Dead Pit. Are you boys picking up American Werewolf in Paris on 4K? I didn't even know it was getting a 4K release.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
But that's another one. It's been so long since I've seen it. I haven't seen that since probably the 90s.
I've seen it once. I was like, oh.
So I probably not. I've got to be a little more picky on what I'm upgrading at this point. So
I know.
I just some shelf space.
Same. I know I'm getting Candyman though. Like that is a must for me on 4K goes. That's going to be a good one. And then I'm getting RoboCop. I pre-ordered that. I love RoboCop. And then Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which is actually a great Frankenstein movie. I'm getting on 4K. So
I just got that. I have never seen it.
It's great. It's great. Has that same look and feel of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And like I said, I got to rewatch that one too. So I might as well do a back-to-back because I can remember when this thing was in it was all over TV for like trailers and stuff as a kid. And I don't know if I was too young to go see it. So maybe that's why I never really did. But I've never seen it. And I'm hearing mixed things. Some people are saying it's great and some people are like, oh, it's boring. So, I mean, I'm interested in checking it out for the first time for sure.
I think it's great. I mean, I've only seen it once, but I think the only thing with that movie that holds it back is I think it's close to almost 3 hours, and they could have cut it back a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a great one. So you'll have to let me know what you think of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Go through some of these real quick. Comments. Jamie says, I'll be picking it up. That's another one I have a sick love for. I think she's talking about American Werewolf in Paris. I need to rewatch it. I think I just need to check that out again at some point. Robert Long says, Meatballs 3 needs a Blu-ray. I've never seen any of those movies, so I need to watch those. And then Dead Pit, Cloak and Dagger 1984 is coming soon to 4K. Really?
I mean, that's the rumor, but I mean, I'm hope it's true because Cloak and Dagger is an awesome movie, and it's a pretty, I would think, a big movie for Vinegar Syndrome to take and get. So I'm definitely down if that's the title, because they sent out a newsletter and they had some different clues and stuff, and I think that's what a lot of people are saying. And if you haven't seen that, that's definitely a cool movie to watch with Henry Thomas and stuff.
I need to see that one because I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. So I loved, and I just saw it for the first time last year, Flight of the Navigator, and it was fantastic.
That was one of my go-tos growing up. That was one that we watched constantly as kids.
And at Second Sight, I don't know if it's a Blu-ray or 4K. I think it's a Bluray, but beautiful transfer.
Yeah, so good.
Beautiful. You know what? Sidekicks. Sidekicks needs a Blu-ray release or a proper treatment.
Definitely does. I still have my VHS sitting right over there on that shelf because it doesn't have anything other than that. And you're right, it's definitely overdue. There is a HD release on either Amazon Prime or Netflix, so it's out there. Someone did it. So I don't know if that's a telltale sign that maybe it'll come out. I don't know.
I remember as a kid though seeing it on so many times on again a recorded VHS tape, and as a kid, I had not seen too much of the Karate Kid film, so I always got mixed up between that and Sidekicks. I think I saw Sidekicks actually more as a kid, and I've seen Karate Kid more as an adult. So.
Yeah, Karate Kid was a huge thing for me and my brother as kids, like obsessed, and it's still probably one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time. And Sidekicks came out, and we were big Jonathan Brandis fans at the time because of like Ladybugs and stuff like that. So yeah, it definitely was one that we loved and watched, and it kind of went hand in hand with Karate Kid. So you're right. It was like when Karate Kid was done, Sidekicks was kind of the next thing that we were really into.
Yeah. So, but Yeah, sidekicks would be a cool one. Jonathan Brandis too. I grew up with him and loved him. So, what's up, Isaiah? How are you, buddy? Hope you're doing
What's up,
well.
man?
Much love to you. By the way, guys, before we end, once again, please go subscribe to this awesome friend and guy right here, Mr. Born to Be Rad, Garrett. So
thank you, man.
You're welcome. If you guys love nostalgia, movies, physical media, rad recommendations, I mean, check this guy out, guys. Robert, you're welcome. Sequest.
Sequest. Oh yeah, I remember that was on like Sunday nights when I was a kid.
But anyway, guys, we're gonna like slowly wrap this up. But I want to say, first of all, thank you once again, Garrett, for being a part of this. It's been so much fun, and it's always fun, always fun. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And everybody who is watching, join the chat. Who's watching the playback? Thank you all so much, and I'm having a blast being back doing streams again. So it's been fun. So. Gonna keep doing them. Gonna keep doing them.
Man. Keep doing them. You're a great host.
Well, thank you. So, but anyway, guys, we're wrapping this up. I hope everybody has a great week. Just remember to always be yourself because you're amazing, and keep being awesome. And Garrett, do you want to end with such an awesome thing, which is stay rad?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for checking this out with us and hanging with us on this Sunday night. And this is Garrett at Born to Be Rad. And thank you, Justin, again. And like always, stay rad.
And remember, you're so cool, Garrett. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
See ya.